gentlemen, Bucksters out there. This is Dave, along with...
This is Dale.
We are the two old bucks.
We
back with another episode to tweak your brain.
So
today, let's see. What are we going to talk about? Dale said he's got some...
I'm going to throw shaving at you.
He's going to talk about shaving. I'm going to do a kind of a quick book review. Maybe read a segment of a book that I enjoyed. This is from several years ago, but it's kind of another offbeat book. And then Dale's going to talk about, I think, QUIRKS.
QUIRKS, not QUARKS.
Not QUARKS. Well, we'll see where it goes from there. We've got several letters from afar, and I have another person that I'd like to remember if we have time for that.
Sure.
So, anyway, so tell me about shaving.
Okay, we're sitting at the table, open air cafe, having coffee. We sit down with our cups, and the first thing I say to Dave is, "Hey, Dave, you ever think about shaving?"
And then I would say, "No."
Yeah, okay.
Maybe.
Politely, he would say, "No, why? What do you want?"
There goes your brain again, yeah.
So I said, "Well, what do you shave with?" I'm asking you. How do you shave? Do you shave with a razor or do you shave with an electric shave? How do you do it?
I shave with a razor, one of those 17 blade.
17 blader.
Well, I don't know, it's
okay.
five or whatever it is, yeah.
17 blades. Okay. And I shave with a safety razor.
Wow.
A single blade.
Talk about a throwback. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Well, here's the thing. I'm thinking about this, about the whole industry of shaving. And I had a very, very fancy plastic 3-bladed shaver. You know, those. So the handle is just miraculous. And the handle is just beautiful. There's more handle than there is blades.
Right.
Right. I mean, I said, my God.
Kind of a work of art.
Yeah, kind of a work of art, these handles and all these grips and everything.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, there was one time, when I didn't have access to those things, and I met a guy who had taken a little piece of bamboo and a little piece of wire, and he twisted the wire to hold a replaceable 2-bladed. You know, you could get replacement blades for a 2-bladed, like Gillette shaver. So I looked at this thing. He bent it in such a way that the wire held the blade, and he stuck the wire in the hollow end of a little piece of bamboo, about a little bit bigger than a pencil.
Is this another Africa story?
Well, it was in Africa when it happened, and I said, you know something? That's really all you need. That blade just needs to be pivoted on a little piece of wire.
Okay.
To do it. And so I tried it, and it worked. So ever since then, I've not been impressed with all these handles, and I've not been impressed with the multiple blades thing, because what really ruins them is not so many shaves you can get out of it. My view is they clog up, and they don't shave well after that. You can get maybe 3 or 4 shaves out of it, and you buy another packet, and you can get the $7.99 blades. So as a bit of a rebel, I said, I'm going to go back to the old brush, soap, and 2-bladed safety razor. Mm-hmm. Now, I do have an electric razor for emergency purposes when you just want to look halfway decent. You can take off some of the stubble. So I went ahead and built this whole system, and I find that I get a decent shave out of a 2-bladed safety razor, and it's more economical than constantly buying these handled 5 and 6 blade jobs or whatever. Not that they don't work. It's just that you have to keep buying them things. However, they don't make so many 2-bladed razors anymore.
No.
I'm thinking, these guys, if they figure out you can use something like that, they immediately raise the price of it or make it, take it off the shelves. Yeah. So your options for blades are really, really kind of thin. So you prefer you buying these fancy handled 5-blade jobs or 3-blade jobs?
Yeah, I'll buy one of those fancy handle ones, and then I run out of the 5 blades that comes with it, and you can't get them again. So, and you buy Buy something else.
Buy a different fancy handle and start
fancy
again.
handle,
So
yeah.
you're like me. At one time, I had a drawer full of all these handles.
Yep, exactly.
They did everything but make coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking the blades to replace on that fancy handle were like $19 for 5 blades. I said, there's no way I want to do that. So there is one maker of has a brush and a cup, and then I discovered some soaps at work. So
you realize we've lost half our audience now, the females.
well, I mean, they have special razors, particularly for
Okay.
anybody who uses them. I mean,
Like shaving and all
yeah,
that.
I mean, like what an industry that is. But the handles, when I said a guy with a little piece of wire and a little bit of bamboo made a handle that worked just as well. So for all you shaving enthusiasts out there, carry on. That's just my personal rebellious method of trying to beat the system.
You know, that reminds me, there was an
It reminds you.
yeah, unbelievable. Saturday Night Live. This was, 50 years ago or something. This is when the two-bladed throwaway razor came out. Okay, and they made a skit or a video, like a funny video skit of a three-bladed razor. And they said, and they showed it how the one blade would grab the whisker and pull it out, and the next blade would cut it off. And they said, and the reason for this is because you, the American consumer, will believe anything. Now they were making a joke.
Yeah.
Okay, they've gone to 2. Now they're, somebody's going to come out with 3. Now they're at 5 or 6. It's
I don't even know what the third and fourth blade does at that point. How far
don't-
can you stretch this thing
they
and keep
don't-
cutting
yeah,
it off? You
yeah.
know what I mean? So I lost faith in all that when the replacement blades, after using them once or twice or 3 times or whatever, and I have a beautifully coiffured mustache that's only two hair widths thick.
right now.
Yeah. So I have to be.
Try-
I put a little
struggling
eyebrow
to see
pencil on
this.
it so
I
you
mean,
can see it.
Yeah, we're like 10 feet away from each
Yeah.
other here. We're distant.
So I can't afford to have a 5-bladed, device there anywhere close to that. Otherwise, I lose my whole persona. I mean, that's what gives me my
Well, we don't want that to happen.
my intellectual look.
Yeah.
It makes people believe I can spell, even
Makes
though
you
I can't.
special. Makes you special. Listen, I think we've done enough. We've done enough blading
Oh
here.
yeah,
Let's,
yeah. Okay.
Let's go on to something else. Let's move on here. I'd like to do another quick book review.
A proper book review, by the way.
Well, I don't know. It won't be a Dell book review. Let's put it that way. It won't,
Mine's all over the board.
it won't be the. It won't,
I hold a book. I say it's reviewed.
it won't be the Sunday New York Times book review. But anyway, the book, and I read this a long time ago, 10 years ago. Okay, yeah. It's called Population 485, Meeting Your Neighbors, One Siren at a Time by Michael Perry. All right, and it takes place in New Auburn, Wisconsin. And this was published in 2009. So, okay. Perry grew up on a dairy farm in this town, New Auburn, Wisconsin, and he left town, became a nurse, returned 12 years later, and he was looked at as the city slicker, the outsider, and he was also writing. He was also starting to do some writing. And, he was looked at as this oddball from city slicker from afar. So he joined the volunteer fire department, meet his neighbors. He became an EMT. He was a nurse, so he knew what he was doing. And these essays are about his experience, the different experiences he had rescuing his neighbors and more importantly, becoming part of the community, just kind of feeling his way and fitting back into the community. So these are all short stories. They're all true. And, I found them funny, sweet, sad, and sometimes they were soapy, but a nice read. And his website is sneezingcow.com. In addition to this book, I've read the next book that he came out with was called Truck, A Love Story, and it's about bringing an old beat-up, rusty truck alongside of the road back to, giving it a new life, which is kind of cute. And another book of his that I read was Coop, and it was about him taking up pig farming and then chicken farming.
He would fit right in. He would fit right in with the old Bucks.
Yeah,
Huh? He's got a lot of stories there. A lot of.
So what I'd like to do is just read an excerpt from one of the stories. Now he's describing one of the characters, and the characters, he calls the character the Beagle. The Beagle had been on the department for more than 25 years. Only the chief had more seniority. The Beagle can tell you some stories. He remembers when the old pumper was a new pumper. He once broke his ankle in the line of duty. He was running to the hall in his cowboy boots and landed wrong when he jumped the ditch. The cowboy boots are trouble. He'll hit a patch of ice and his feet go zip, zip, zipping. It looks like a hairy version of Riverdance. Lately, he has switched to slip-on tennies. Gives him an edge, he says. The Beagle and I are pretty much equidistant to the fire hall door. We're usually the first ones there, and it's always a little race to see who gets to drive the van. Two things you can count on when you jump into the rig with the Beagle. You're going to get a whiff of wintergreen, and you're going to get a detailed report of exactly where he was and what he was doing when the page went off. Every call starts that way. Somewhere in the first half mile, he'll give you the update. Damn, I was just sitting down to eat, and I heard Bloomer paged over the scanner, and I said, that's our area. So I started getting my shoes on, and sure enough, here comes the page. Hell, I was in the shower, and I thought I heard the damn pager go off. Me and the old lady, all these different stories. The whiff of wintergreen you get is because Beagle doesn't make a move without a fresh plug of Kodiak. That's
chewing tobacco.
Chewing tobacco. That's that's the concentrated stuff. It says after all these years, the cud slips in between his cheek and gum like an afterthought and stays there. You'd think he'd take it out at mealtime, but he says, nope. I could eat an apple. I got that big pouch in there, he says. You smell the wintergreen, but you'll never see Beagle spit. Oh, yeah. He is of the man enough to chew, man enough to swallow school. My pancreas cramps at the thought of it. He says his dad called him the other day, told him to bring over a tin of Kodiak. The Beagle found this strange because his dad is always telling him to quit to chew. Turns out Dad's dog had worms, and he wanted tobacco for a dewormer. Yeah. The Beagle said it was a tussle, but they got a wad of the snooze down Shep's gullet. He said, that dog shit worms for a week, said the Beagle. We were sitting around the fire hall at 4 a.m, back from some call. And what does that tell you, Beagle? I had to say it to set him up. I sure as hell ain't going to get worms. So that's a short.
So in this case, he's telling us essay just about one of the guys he works with.
This is one, yeah, and he talks about the different experience. And some of them, it's about somebody being dying in a car accident. So there's some tragic stuff there, but it's
see, that's what
it's about
think
community.
Is beautiful. I think that's what makes it interesting. That's a writer that can give you a picture of the the local characters.
I enjoy his stuff. He's put out a couple more books since then.
Do you still have that book?
I do not. Well, I probably gave it to the little library somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I keep recycling them. I don't see the point.
You pick a lot of interesting stuff.
And again, he and I emailed back and forth for a while. Told him that I liked this stuff, and he.
So you actually communicate with these writers?
Well, I try.
Unbelievable.
I've never been stiffed by anyone that I've tried to communicate with. They're
regular guys.
They're regular guys and gals, and they're happy to talk to you about their stuff. So
I find out more about you as the older. I don't know if I'll live long enough to find all about all the things you've managed to accomplish.
I hope not. not that I hope an early demise for you, but there's stuff that just.
So you understand I have some what?
Well, you were talking about
QUIRKS.
QUIRKS.
And you knew I didn't have any quirks, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, you knew I had quirks, but no quarks.
No quarks. Yeah, we had a little discussion on this, I think, in the last episode. Yeah. But Dale's talking about quirks that he has, and.
Well, I'm asking you. I mean, I'm sitting down, just breaching the subject here over the second cup of coffee. What do you consider a quirk? Something you do repetitively, something you have to have.
Something that you're kind of compulsive about,
Yeah.
and it has to be this way. Yeah. Yeah,
Well, do you have any?
I have a couple. I just thought about it when I go out for a bike ride. I do have a kind of a sequence of things that have to happen. So I have to know where my keys are, and my EpiPen and my water bottles. Everything has to be ready. Get the bike in the car. Get them in the car, and ride off to my ride. If my ride's starting from somewhere other than home, and if something is missing from my ritual, I don't know what it is, but I just have that nagging feeling in the back of my head, like something's not right. Something's not right.
So you stick with it till you figure it out. You try.
Well, I get to my destination, and then I found, I forgot to. I left the water bottle at home, or I didn't bring a snack, or it could be a number of things. But I've done something that's out of my routine. I don't have my helmet line. I forgot to put my helmet liner in today.
So you have but I mean I'll give you an example what I consider a quirk. Am I saying that right? Quirk, yeah.
Quirk.
Yeah.
Quark.
A compulsive thing. I cannot use chopsticks if they are not equal. They have to be the same size. They have to be the same length. They have to match. And I use chopsticks for a lot. I use them around the house to stir things. I use it to test stuff in a hot pan. I use it to turn things over.
Do you use them to eat?
I do use them to eat.
Okay.
A lot of times I just use the sticks, because I found out that I can get by very, very comfortably with one good knife, one pan, and a set of chopsticks. I didn't need any forks at all. I have to have that. I'll tell you something else I have to have. I have to have all my watches work. I don't like clocks that don't work. And I hate a watch, even if it's not one I wear. But if one of them puppies is not keeping time, I will go as far as I have to get that thing fixed that day as quickly as possible. I just cannot stand to see that watch sitting there and not be working.
It's got to be right.
It's got to be right.
Got to be right.
It's got to be right. And I like pens. I have a certain pen that I prefer to write with. I mean, I write with other ones, but there's one that I like to do.
Well, that sounds reasonable, yeah.
I think you have a...
I had a fountain pen that I kept for a lot of years. I liked writing with a fountain pen. Somehow I broke it, wore it out, and I bought a few after that, but just wasn't the same. Wasn't the same. I don't know.
Well, I go to great lengths. In fact, I have a pen. It's a pen that's comes with a gel cartridge, and I modify them to use ink cartridges. I mean, I actually spend time taking these things apart, modifying the cartridges and springs and everything to...
For those of you who are not yet retired, this is your future,
Too much
folks.
time on your hands.
Too much time on your hands.
So I'm very, very particular, because I think if you have this certain pen, some pens write bigger checks than others. You can write $1 million check with this pen. It's just certain. But that's a quirk I have, and I just can't shake it. Let's see. I hate shoelaces that are too long. I don't know how many...
Oh, I'm with you on that.
How many sets of shoelaces I just whacked off. What are you laughing at?
I'm not...
And...
I'm just this visual I have.
Oh, you're
never
conceptualizing
mind.
things. I hate, and as he pointed my finger at you, I hate knives that aren't sharp.
It's understandable. Yeah,
Dangerous.
Who likes dull knives?
And what else? That's pretty much my most favorable photos. I mean, I really go to great lengths to resolve those issues. I do not. Yeah. I will hunt for that pen forever before I, write with another one if I can help it. So, anyhow,
well, I know I've developed. I wouldn't call it a quirk. It's maybe a compulsion ever since we started doing the podcast.
It's a thin line. Quirk, compulsion.
I probably check 10 times a day how many downloads we have. It's ridiculous. It's like it's gonna, like, what difference does it make?
Well, you're in head of that department of checking those things. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've got a lot of employees in that
That's
department
right,
too,
yeah.
and
You're head of
I'm
HR. You're head of corporate development. You're head of production, recording.
I've got the whole production staff reporting to me now. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure.
Me, I go home at the end of my shift and forget about it.
Get up at 6 o'clock and send me notes, wake me up. Yeah.
Anyhow, that's my quirk. So if you have a quirk out there, I suggest you tell us about that. I think I've covered all the good ones, but maybe there's a bunch out there that like that you might have.
And if you have any protons or neutrons,
right? If that happens to be
those
a problem,
those would be your quarks.
So just send it to BUCKSTWOOLD, right, Dave?
At gmail.com.
BUCKSTWOOLD at gmail. It's TWO. BUCKSTWOOLD.
And we'll put a link on our liner notes.
Yeah.
I keep calling them liner notes. They're not liner notes. They're episode summaries.
Episode summaries,
whatever.
Yeah. So
liner. I like liner notes. It reminds
good
me
luck out there.
Reminds me of the old 33 1/3 LPs, where half the time you bought the album for the cover and the liner notes, stuff on the back. Yeah, because it was all part of the art. All part of the art. Yeah.
So to both our listeners out there who follow us, feel free to.
We were up to 3 at one point.
Feel free to.
Oh, you know what? We got another Russian listener. It just popped.
Really?
In. Yeah. And this is not the same person from Moscow. This is from some town I can't pronounce. So
send your stories in, because it's always fun. So
what's next here? I would like to recognize a person who's no longer with us.
Okay.
Folks we remember. Now this fellow's name is Len Gumley. He passed away a year or two ago. We lived in the same building for a couple years, and I got to meet him, kind of just the evening sit around. And the guy was incredible. He told stories about his life. He wanted to be an actor. Okay, now this guy's about 5'6". He looks like a fire hydrant. Not the handsomest guy around, but kind of like a bulldog.
Was he older than you?
Oh yeah.
No, I mean he was older than you when you met him.
He's 20 years older than I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He said, yeah, and he had a rough voice. Yeah, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a star. He said, I died in John Wayne's arms in sands of Iwo Jima. True story. He was the guy who died in John Wayne's arms in that movie. And I said, geez, Len, why didn't you pursue that? What happened? He said, look at this face. This is not a face of a movie star. He said, I figured out I was better behind the camera, and that's what his career was. He worked for one of the networks. He was like the studio manager. He talked about different people that he worked for. He liked Milton Berle. We're really going back now.
So you met somebody who knew all these people.
He knew these guys.
Yeah.
He worked with them. Sid Caesar. He said Sid Caesar was great. He was a scream. Arthur Godfrey did not like the man. Okay, he said, I don't know whether he fired me or I quit, but we didn't get along. And Godfrey was behind the scenes. Godfrey was not. He was not a nice person, actually.
That's going way back.
He fired his singer on the air, and the guy was like, the guy didn't know it. He was live on the air. He got fired. Anyway, but another interesting thing about Len was he was a glider pilot in World War II. People don't know that we had a glider force, or we tried to. And
I'm familiar with gliders in that episode.
So they were looking for additional air strength, different ways to get people into these places. And somebody came up with the idea, well, we'll build these big boxy gliders and
crash them in. Yeah.
Crash them in. Well, we'll bring some troops in, or we'll bring vehicles in, or whatever. And he said, well, the aircraft companies were busy building airplanes. So who'd they turn to build these gliders? Furniture makers, coffin makers. Yeah, it's amazing.
Anybody with a saw.
And he was one of the pilots in the program because he couldn't get into the regular flight program. And actually, he crashed his glider. Well, they all crashed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Many of them crashed. He crashed his glider on a test flight, messed up his back pretty good to the point where he was then disqualified from the program.
Which in essence probably saved his life.
But in the year 2000, he helped produce a documentary called Silent Winged Warriors that aired on the History Channel. And it was really good documentary material about the glider pilots. Speaking of coffins, the aircraft that they were flying in were called flying coffins.
Mm-hmm. Did you not find it fascinating to be able to talk to a man that lived through that? Isn't that interesting?
Oh yeah,
they're getting fewer and far between.
Yeah, he took us up to his unit, and he aired that History Channel documentary that he produced. It was fascinating. And this is a guy who's had so many. He worked for a drug company a long part of his life, making videos, making.
Okay, so what I'm taking
them.
from this is you are lucky enough, are fortunate enough, and I think sometimes you are just in the right place at the right time. Other times I think you
Fortunam bonum est.
Yeah.
Fortune favors the brave.
No, but you're willing to strike up a conversation with somebody, and if they have a history or something like that, you can talk to them. But you actually met these people and you talk to them, and I always find it fascinating when you find somebody who did something so unique in history, and you have a chance to talk to them while they're alive. I mean, gee whiz.
Yeah, I mean, he was a fascinating guy to talk to, just terrific.
Because when they're gone, that's it.
He was very, very active in the theater scene down here. He was a supporter. He was an administrator.
I mean, up here.
Up here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Oops, I guess I told people where we live.
Yeah. So anyhow, I find it interesting. I didn't know him, obviously, but when you meet someone like that, it leaves an impression upon you, and you just say to yourself, wow.
A life well lived.
Yeah.
A life well lived, really.
I hope we can say that. We can say that when they're talking about us when we're going.
Well, here's something else we could say. We could say we have a couple letters from afar to cover.
Well, I think we ought to check that.
Why don't we do that?
Maybe some people that have representing alternative opinions.
There we go. We got another one here from Ranger Rick. And he said, and this is a slimmed down version. It was a pretty long letter. Thank you again, Rick. He says, I liked the tribute to Dave's favorite teacher, Miss Neff, who taught English. He said, of course, it got me to thinking about my ninth grade English teacher, Mr. Bruce Lewis, who was the inspiration for many a future writer. It got me thinking about Mr. McCall, who taught 8th grade science and had a sense of humor, and Mrs. Frank, my 6th grade teacher, who tried to teach us some lessons in life as well. For example, this is good, she explained why girls prefer being asked, would you like to go see a movie, and I'm just throwing in here Texas Chainsaw Massacre with me on Saturday night, rather than, are you doing anything Saturday night? So, we asked people to send in their teacher stories.
That's an excellent example of our period of the time we were there.
3 teachers here, so thank you, Rick. We have another loyal listener
Rick
here.
Could be close to our age, I'm thinking, maybe.
He could be. This is Joel from Mayaca City, and another loyal listener.
Big town,
Mayaca City.
I've heard about that. It's got an airport and everything down there.
Center of the universe. And he says, and he's harking back to several different podcast series. He says, while listening to the podcast, and I'm not sure which one he was listening to, I thought, hey, why not see if Tidy Cat tubs can be repurposed as feed bags for the Koenig ponies? And then I thought again, hey, why not have the tubs painted and festooned with flowers or such, maybe a contest among grade school kids? And then I thought again, hey, that's enough damn coffee, Joel.
Thank you, Joel, for taking the time to put that train of thought together for us.
There you go. Yeah, it was great the way he wove those together. And also recognize that he's probably got a little bit too much caffeine in him to be thinking that stuff.
And the last letter?
The last letter is actually the end of the day here.
Oh.
I think we're
clock on the wall.
We're getting bucked out here.
Tempus fugit.
Tempus fugit. So this is Dave.
This is Del.
And we are the Two Old Bucks. Adios.